Episode 22, Lady Chaos. You guys know the drill. Again, episode 19 just released by the time of this recording, but I'm reviewing episode 22 and 23 because those are now in English, which is good. I'm going to be very quick with this episode because the very first half of this is just super simple to explain, and I do not want to explain more about it because it is a little embarrassing, but I'll get to it when I get to it. But yeah, as you see in the first screenshot and the second one here, if you cannot tell by now, Adrian's in therapy and he's basically discussing this to his therapist that, how he sees his father, and it's different from how everybody sees his father. Kind of simple, really, They see him as a hero, but he just sees him as just a father who just kind of abandoned him and neglected him, right? And he wants to know how everybody sees him, and he wants to just fit in. The therapist did say that maybe he should, maybe ask questions to people who see him as this positive figure, and maybe he can actually put the pieces together. Because it's like a puzzle. Without all the pieces, he doesn't know the true reality of his own father. And this is basically a good thing that Adrian should actually take interest in, as he only knows him in his own perspective. But what about everybody else? Let's get to that, shall we? So, it is kind of a little awkward that the episode I came to is just the next one after the previous one. Heart fixer that Nino and Marinette are sitting next to each other. Let's forget about that, okay? So Adrian's idea, or could be Nino's, is kind of confusing whose idea it is, but the idea is to make a documentary about his own father, asking people that know Gabriel questions on how good he was, or at least the truth about who he actually was. Yeah, and this one kind of ticked Marinette a bit, not in an angry sense, just in the normal Marinette panic mode. And we're gonna see a lot about that. First one they discuss who to interview is Natalie. So Marinette basically says that's kind of a good idea, but she left the room first, and we all know where she's going to. She talks to Natalie about this plan being kind of a backfire thing, as Marinette and Natalie kind of want to keep Gabriel's promise a secret, or at the very least, the promise that Marinette kind of knew. Because later on this episode, it's been told that Ladybug doesn't exactly remember everything that happened. Besides she doesn't know the wish because she got technically unconscious by the blast. And that's technically true. It will be explained later, but I'm gonna bring it up right now, just so that I don't need to repeat myself later, unless I do. So I do apologize for that. And through this whole time, it's technically a good minute and maybe 2.5 minutes of just Marinette kind of just recapping Miraculous Ladybug seasons 1 through 5. More emphasis on seasons 4 and 5. So yeah, 2 minutes. Of course, Marinette, after finishing all that, is basically kind of worried about Natalie, putting out the truth there. Natalie knows better, of course, because technically this is her idea, But Natalie knows what to say, what not to say. And she's just going to say stuff that Adrian technically already heard, but I guess Adrian kind of forgot how good his father was in the past. While Marinette does not believe that Gabriel Gress was ever good, Natalie, well, let's be honest, Natalie is telling the truth here. Gabriel does have a very good and soft side to him with, Emily and Adrian, and how they were and how they fulfilled his life. How happy they made him. That's true. And how much he would actually do for love. Now, with this being said, Adrian says the next person he should interview is Miss Tsurugi. After discussing that they're going to meet Miss Tsurugi, Marinette decides to go out of the room and then just go to Miss Tsurugi. As Ladybug, she basically told Miss Tsurugi that Adrian and Nino are coming to interview her. Now, they do have this little scuffle, and while Miss Tsurugi doesn't like to take orders, and does remind Ladybug that she does know about Gabriel, and she is keeping this a secret as well. Ladybug, on one hand, this does technically agree, but not really, as again, the only reason why she lied was just so that Kagami would have a mother, and of course, it is better than just having no parent figure at all, because if Ladybug did tell the truth, not only the world knew, but yeah. And to be honest, we can already agree that Ladybug is telling the truth here, because if she said it, and then, Kagami does like her mother, which is hard to believe, I know, but it is true, because Kagami does care about her. So if her mother is actually in jail, Kagami would be kind of more distraught, and would technically go through the same thing as, Adrian did, but just like in two halves, in a way. But yeah, Marinette hijinks ensue. She's trying to basically just stall for a bit. I think Miss Tsurugi is smart enough to at least not put the whole truth in, or else she will go to jail. And she does care about Kagami. So there's that. But but Marinette's just pushing here. Really pushing here. The next person Adrian wants to interview is Amelia. I think that's her name. Gabriel's sister. No, Gabriel's stepsister, also known as Emily's twin sister, I believe. Felix's mother. And while Lady and Marinette was just so confused on why she's in London, apparently in this episode, thanks to the plot, she's here. She's here with Felix because they want to get apartments to live in Paris, next to Adrian. It was mostly Felix's idea, but we don't know that for sure. We'll get to that later. So Marinette, as herself, goes to find Aunt Amelia. Though I know it's just not her name, but that's what I'm going to call her. When we get to see her, she is trying to get a suite, floor, as to say. I don't remember what the word they just said for this, but yeah, we'll just call it an apartment, shall we? So this apartment is on sale. She's here before the actual person, the person on the left, because, she was there first, and he was not. But apparently he finally arrived because he apparently had dibs on this room before. And then the big question is, do you have pets? Amelia said that she would get a cat one day. And then that basically turns him to the other guy, because the other guy just hates pets. And why did he choose the other guy? Well, because the building doesn't allow pets. Yeah, fall into that one, After the little disappointment, Marinette finds her and asks her to, talk about Gabriel's good side. There is a problem with that, and Amelia feels like she is just gonna be lying to Adrian because Gabriel was never that nice. And Marinette does agree with that, but this is just for Adrian's sake, and she basically tells the truth for Adrian's sake. Well, not truth, more like a lie, but it's technically not a lie, because knowing the lore of the Agrest family from season 5, it seems like the family, Emily's family, was much more hateful towards Gabriel than Gabriel was towards her, and Gabriel was much more nicer to Emily, and I feel like there's some sort of jealousy in there. Well, she said her priority is telling the truth. It seems like she's pretty much lying here, but she's a woman of truth. She says that it's part of her code, personal code, her moral, but I really doubt that, thanks to the Agrest lore. But, with Marinette making the cute puppy face, I mean, it's really cute too, I'm not gonna lie. But it is kind of funny, honestly, that she can actually pull this off. But yeah, this face basically kind of convinced her, or so we thought. If this screenshot doesn't actually say to you that she is trying her best to say the truth, but Marinette tries to finish her sentences, as technically speaking, she already knows enough apparently about Marinette that she would do something like this. So she's telling basically half truths, or at least the truth, but not the whole truth. she doesn't exactly like it, and throughout this sequence, she is using her stamp to basically just bang on the table because she's very uncomfortable with this. It makes sense, but let's be honest. I feel like this is just a very uncomfortable thing because we know Marinette's not doing the best thing right now. But knowing about Amelia and the Gabriel family, it's not that great, and I really doubt that the Emily side of the family is really that trustworthy anyway. So big doubts on how she feels because the truth feels more personal rather than the actual truth. But this is what you get when you try to, ask the twin sister of your mother. Whatever. They got the stuff they need, and they're going to edit. However, Adrian wants to ask Ladybug. Yeah! What could go wrong? Oh yeah, apparently the guy who bought the apartment, who bought the suite, he got a dog as a pet. So he lied. And that kind of made Amelia tip over the edge, and then she got acclimatized, you know the drill. Yeah, the new Hawkmoth came over, acclimatized her, and then it just kind of convinced her all this much about eyes being terrible, yada yada. And then she becomes Lady Chaos. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this design looks really cool. It's super simple, but it looks cool. And it looks like the spade. It looks like a spade, honestly. Not that I mentioned that basically, I feel like this is some sort of like typical magic here, like the fucking seal that she does. When she pounds the stick onto the ground, you can see there's a magical seal there. And it looks pretty much like your typical seal. I was gonna say the seal Yori Compost, but don't tell anybody or Konami that I said that. The plan to get Ladybug, Carapace calls Ladybug. Yeah, so Marinette tries to call, but she's gonna hide in the bathroom. Adrian wants to help her because Marinette's excuse was to fix the plumbing. He wants to help, but no, Marinette wants to do it alone. And the reason why is because she's calling Alia to get a illusion of Ladybug and use that Ladybug to, all that stuff. It's a bit more complicated. Or, of course, Alia said this is to just an illusion of Marinette, so Marinette controls the Ladybug and then tells the truth that way, or at least like partial lies, so Marinette can do it. But Marinette is thinking ahead, saying that if Adrian was so moved, he would kiss the illusion and it will break, and he'll question everything. And let's be honest, Marinette has a good point here. And yeah. And this is where the part Marinette says that she was technically unconscious, which is true. Ladybug was unconscious, therefore, she doesn't know the whole truth. And that's all Alia needs to know. Now, Alia doesn't like to lie here, but let's be honest, the type of lie she tells Adrian as the illusion Ladybug is not really a lie. It's basically the truth. So in a way, Alia did guess the real truth on how Gabriel feels about Adrian in his, last moments being alive. It's not a lie. But unfortunately, she never know because she was never there. And we'll never know how Marinette will feel, but I feel like Marinette's just gonna feel bad anyway. We all know the drill. So let's probably get to the conflict, shall we? Yeah, so the ability of the akumatized villain is that Lady Chaos with the Chaos Bubble, when somebody enters it, they become corrupted with chaos. No, not like, the liquid monster. I mean, obviously, the impulse of like doing random shit, that type of chaos, but in a more evil way. Technically speaking, I guess that's technically what Discord does, huh? Oh yeah, by the way, I kind of like it that it's kind of a level up gaming system, like it's a gaming mechanic. It's like a game mechanic that every person or group of people that enters the bubble, she gets a ring around the staff, and the staff, the more rings around it, she can just tap on the ground the magical seal, appears and the bubble grows bigger. I feel like there's some sort of anime that does this already. I don't know. But I like it how the staff, well, not exactly, it's kind of very similar to like the angel staff from Dragon Ball. I kind of like that. Ladybug is on the scene. It's the fake one. And I already told you what happens here. Aya, as the imposter Ladybug, lies, but again, Aya did hit the nail on the head. She did tell the truth on how Gabriel felt at the very end of his life. And yeah, that's kind of about it. And how much he actually cared about Adrian, which is true. He did care about Adrian. It was unfortunate that the rest of the time, yeah. So technically it's true, but it's not true because we know the deeper secret onto why he does it and all that stuff. This whole thing as Gabriel's always been a bad guy. Therefore, he should be reprimanded about this. And technically, he is Hawkmoth and Monarch, and yes, he should be reprimanded by this. But let's be honest here. The part where Gabriel Grass really loves Adrian and he did everything for love is true. Basically factual. And Aya hit the nail on the head right here. As to the true reasons why he actually did all this is something that Ladybug knows, Natalie knows, and technically Miss Tsurugi knows as well. Not Amelia, because Amelia's big. She's a lying bee. Maybe there's a lot of bias in her, And I'm not just saying that. Again, with the aggress lore that we have in season 5, it's really likely that Auntie Amelia is just lying. Code of honor my ass. Listen, Aya, we know you're sad, but technically speaking, if you already knew this and know about some fourth wall breaking, you would know that you just speak the truth, okay? You already did, so don't need to worry that you lied. You actually spoke the truth. With the villain already spotted, everybody, even Carapace, basically kind of went their way to, save the day, stop Lady Chaos. Aya doesn't exactly like to lie, and of course it's kind of reflected back to the point where she knew the truth what Marinette was actually hiding from her. Remember that Cat Noir, thanks to his new magical ability, can actually erase memories, selective memories, and good thing he selected the correct one because it was just for that day. Or the hours, who knows. But yeah, but even though Marinette was pretty sorry about it, Aya was okay. It's not like a big grudge that she will hold because it is just part of being a superhero. Thank God that this Aya is getting smarter by the minute. Actually knows about those responsibilities of being a hero. It kind of sucks, but that's what kind of Western heroes have to face. You guys know the drill already. These guys get corrupted by chaos. But thank goodness that Carapace comes in and just use shelter to protect these guys. Now, luckily, the Chaos Shield, the Chaos Bubble, doesn't really affect Carapace's shield, as of course, it's just the atmosphere doesn't penetrate through his shield, which is good. It is impenetrable, like a turtle shell, right? Get it? Because he's a turtle. With knowing who's inside and what to do, to make it safe for power-up, she used Lucky Charm, but the Lucky Charm gives her a RC truck. Knowing that about this, she uses her, just problem-solving skills, which actually worked this time. And she acts to use Cat Noir's belt and Carapace's camera. Yes, the reason why about that screenshot about, I think, like a few minutes ago that I believe I used it, was that Carapace uses a camera that he has on his shield to actually project this image inside the bubble. So using that, she uses the RC car to drive it into the bubble and basically stop the villain from moving, which it did help. And then it's up to Cat Noir, Carapace, and Rina Rouge to basically stop her from there. Now she's basically stuck, technically speaking, and Cat Noir is protected by the bubble. And of course, the multiple Cat Noirs or shields you see here is by Rina Rouge, basically making illusions, trying to make her get caught off guard. And this works, but you can see once the shield goes down, Cat Noir gets instantly affected by the Chaos Bubble, but he does destroy the staff and the traumatized villain is defeated. Unfortunately, being, zoomed by chaos, he decides to, make the revenge death ball and decides to destroy the whole planet. But thankfully, Ladybug was able to stop him by using the miraculous Ladybugs to bring people back from the brink of chaos. Yeah, so let me see if I actually have a face of him being like being a maniac. I mean, this is the closest one I got, unfortunately, but you can see him being like this. But as the previous screenshot shows, yeah, let's just have Cat Noir get scarred about his powers again, because he was about to destroy the entire world with just one cataclysm. Shigaraki could never. And you already know, guys know the drill. Amelia just like gets up and knows that there's just this unfair justice in the world. People are lying, just getting away with stuff and all that, and she just kind of hated. She did let her emotions run a little too wild there. Get it? Okay, so finally, after all that, of course, and little Marinette's speech, and of course, she knows about the truth and how that's good and all, and people like her to tell the truth. Kind of a little contradicting, but Marinette does know already about this lesson. But again, as I had to emphasize, the main problem as to why Marinette has to lie is because it's for the sake of the people, and sometimes to protect others, you would actually have to, keep some things confidential in some regards. It's not the best lesson to teach, but that's the thing about Miraculous being to later seasons is that just like, I guess, with some other superhero shows, morality comes to question. Do you go through your own morality, or do you want to keep the responsibilities of being a hero? Which, technically speaking, my hero does this in a good way, but doesn't exactly go too deep into it. But it does seem like sometimes hero work does actually surpass morale in some cases, and sometimes you have to do what's good for the greater good, not just for your personal needs. And that's technically what Miraculous is trying to speak here, but in a lesser extent, because it's not that type of show that wants to go too deep into those gray areas. Even though the show tries desperately to get into it, it's kind of bad, I'm gonna be honest with that. But yeah, Adrian wants Marinette to draw basically Gabriel in this newer light, how they see it. Unfortunately, Marinette knows the truth still, and doesn't exactly know how to draw a good Gabriel. Not because she cannot draw, it's more so that she cannot really see Gabriel being this happy guy that everybody says from the past. Marinette is basically that person who wants to draw the here and now, which is one thing that I guess we kind of all forgot that what she draws. She draws in the moment. This is going to be very confusing for her. Oh yeah, apparently at the end here, yeah. So Felix was here the entire time. He was just kind of off screen for the most of the time, but here right now, before the credits roll, he did actually want to be in Paris because he really missed Adrian. Although Amelia says that once Adrian knows the truth, they'll be there. This is not going to end well, is it? I really like this. And this is technically the same thumbnail as they used for the episode. Either way, that is it for the episode. I'm going to be honest. Thank God this is quick. So basically still 25 minutes. I had to explain a bit more through the second half of the episode because that was where the more interesting thing is, and technically my gripes. And it's more so like the gripes I have for this season and the series as a whole from at least season 5, the end of season 5 to here. And this is where it kind of bites back, right? The universe is giving Marinette so much karma right now, and people say Marinette's a Mary Sue. If only they knew the universe was actually just collecting all the debt right now from Marinette owing the universe. I'm gonna say this, it's one of the more uncomfortable episodes to go through because, let's be honest, this thing would never happen, and if they'd gone through my idea, it would have been all okay. if you guys want to know what my idea is for like how Marinette could actually tell Adrian, to be honest, try to watch one of the older reviews, as I actually said that in good length, technically speaking, in one of the reviews. I don't know which one, but it's there. 7 out of 10. It's a pretty above average episode. I'll give it a 6 out of 10 just because it makes me feel bad for everybody in this episode. But technically speaking, in a non-biased sense, it's a 7 out of 10. It's pretty decently good, and it does a good job on like recapping at least the lore bits from season 5. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna give it credit for. Otherwise, it would be a 6 out of 10.